thing will not stop. It's been going off since 7 o'clock. What time is it? 7:04. It won't stop until 7:15. And no, I'm not getting out of bed. It is amazing how your skin looks as soon as you sit in the sunlight. Hello, good morning. How are you guys? I just came from the doctor. Super fun for me. Thank you very much. For some reason today, it's just one of those days, man. Like I
cannot wake up. I woke up at 7 o'clock and I was like,
I can't get out of this bed. I was rolling around, trying to get it right, trying to go to sleep. And I dozed off and then I woke up again and then my back was hurting so bad. It's like I know I'm 80 years old, but come on. Like I would like to feel my age at some point. But yeah, so I just got done with the doctor. So I'm about to go home, finish getting ready because I look an absolute mess. What else is new? I'm going to chill at the house, so I'll see you there. But I wanted to talk to you all about, look, I know it's so politicized right now. I want to talk about my experience personally with the hours along with my husband's. Now, unfortunately, he is not here to tell you his side of the story, but I'm going to do my best to give his rendition, and if there's any notes that he wants me to talk about that I missed, I will be sure to mention that. Let me start off with this. And I'm not saying that this was COVID. Let me put that out there. I'm not saying it was. I'm not. But I was really sick at the end of last year. I was really, really sick. I had a and I never get fevers, okay?
I had a horrible fever.
104, 105. I should have went to the hospital. I was too stupid. I didn't go. I took Tylenol. The fever broke, but my heart rate was consistent at like 120 for an hour and a half straight. This is how bad I was sick, and this was last year. This was at the end of November, beginning of December, okay? So I was definitely, for like weeks, dude, for weeks on end, I was super, super sick. And I'm like, okay, I've never in my life been sick like this before. I have a pretty strong immune system. I really don't get sick. Every now and again, I might get a little sinus infection, but nothing really detrimental. I don't get sick. I don't. So, I learned that day. Day 3 of the fevers and the chills. Remember, this is the end of November of last year. Day 3, I go to urgent care because I'm like, something isn't right. My fever was kind of breaking a little bit, but I was still kind of going through the motions. And I talked to the doctor, and the doctor was like, you know, a lot of people have been coming in with this acute upper respiratory infection, and I can't really pinpoint what's going on. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just having this horrible respiratory infection. I guess I'm just gonna have to wait it out like everybody else, but this was acute in nature, so he was 100% correct about that. Now, again, I'm not saying this was COVID. I'm just telling you that at the end of last year, I was really sick, which leads me to believe that if it was COVID, if it was, just hear me, if it was, then I would have developed the antibodies, right? Okay, well, let's continue into the following year. Obviously, we're in 2020. So we're in 2020, the greatest year of our lives. I just can't imagine this year getting any better than it has been. The fact that we all haven't just found a way to jump off this planet by now, I'm completely shocked. So we learned about the virus really taking off in China and then possibly making a way to the US. We learned that in January. And then I believe the first round of cases confirmed was at the end of January, early February, okay? So not recollecting how sick I was literally just a month and a half prior, I was like, man, I don't want to go through this. I'm scared. I don't know what it's going to be like. If it's anything like what I had before, I don't want it. I don't want anything near it. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm done. I'm good. Kosher. No, I'm good. Well, so I don't remember the specific day, but over the summer, my husband came up to me and he was like, you know, I can't really smell anything.
I was like, what do you mean you can't smell anything?
He's like, I just lost my sense of taste and my sense of smell. I don't have my senses right now. I cannot smell or taste anything. And I look at my husband and I tell him, I'm like, sir, you know that's indicative of the coronavirus, right? Now, according to my husband, he did not know that that was a telltale sign. He was looking for everything else, the acute cough, the chest tightness, things like that, the things you kept hearing through the media. You know, you're looking for those symptoms. Well, he didn't know about that. I just have loss of senses. So I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. I immediately tell him he cannot go to work the following day. He needs to go get tested. So it's the following morning. He texts his boss. He lets him know, hey, Mr. Such and Such, I will not be into work today. I need to go get tested for the virus. The boss understood. He obliged. Obviously, you're not going to kick back with that. My husband took his PTO. He took his day off. So we get to the clinic. No, I lied. We called the clinic first, and the lady said, well, it's on a first come, first served basis for the rapid test. And right now, we already have 21 people in line. Luckily, this place was literally, I could walk there, how close the urgent care is to my home. Luckily, it was literally less than 30 seconds away. So we drive up, we get there, and there's already a line outside the door. We're like, oh great, we're not gonna be able to get our test. We're gonna have to go somewhere and have to wait forever and a day to get some testing. Luckily, we were number 24 and 25 in line. And guess how many tests they had that day? 25. 25 tests. They tell us that we have to wait for 2 hours until we can be tested. So you still have to space out from people. They still have to do the testing for the people before you. It's going to take a while. So in the middle of waiting, we're like, wait, let's just see if other places have rapid tests. No one else in town had rapid tests, so we had to wait for this one. One of the clinics I called, you have to wait 10 days to get your results back. 10 days. I mean, that's quarantine time. You might as well just stay home. You know, like, it was just such a crazy time. So we waited the 2 hours. We get back to the clinic. They test me and my husband simultaneously. I'm in one room, he's in the other. So the test itself was uncomfortable, but it wasn't unbearable. It was similar to the flu test, it just goes a little bit further up your nose. So it really wasn't something unbearable. So all the horror stories you hear, they're very acute. It's really not that bad. It really isn't. So they test me first, and I'm having all the symptoms that my husband is having. They test me and they're like, okay, your rapid test came back negative, but you have all the symptoms that he's having. And I had it pretty much the same amount of time, minus 2 days, because the day after he lost his sense of smell is the day that my symptoms started to start. And I was feeling very lethargic. I had a tiny little cough. I had nasal congestion and my head was hurting. So I let him know all that, and he was saying, okay, well, your rapid test came back negative, but I am going to give you a more like thorough test, the ones that they sent to LabCorp and have to get back. He sent that off, so they swabbed me twice. Super fun. My husband immediately came back positive, so I'm like, immediately as soon as I heard that, it's like I just dropped to the floor. Literally, I was slumping and I was like, I had to catch myself. I called my dad and I was like, yo, Dad, like, I don't know what to do. Like, he's tested positive. I'm just like, I want him to be okay, because at the time, you know, everyone was still in that fear frenzy, right? So I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to my husband. I would lose my mind if something happened to my husband. I need to make sure that everything's going to be all right. My dad offers to let me stay with him since Cairo was positive, but I'm like, no, I'm having the same symptoms. For me, I could have had it first and the virus was just getting out of me. And then when I tested negative. But I knew what was going on. I knew what was really real. They tell us, obviously, there's nothing that can prescribe. If your symptoms persist, you need to call the CDC line. You need to get to the hospital. If it gets really bad, like, you need to keep people informed. So we're like, okay, great. And then obviously we quarantined for 14 days after the diagnosis. During our time here, our symptoms were coughing, really cold symptoms, honestly. I didn't have any trouble breathing. I didn't have really any chest tightness. I just had a lot of anxiety. But because I knew I had COVID, you know, a little bit of my mind just kind of went a little crazy because I was waiting for it to kick in. I was waiting to have trouble breathing. I was waiting to, you know, feel my lungs collapse.
Like, I was waiting for the horror to set in.
And for me, that didn't happen. And for my husband, that didn't happen. The worst thing that happened to him was he just lost his sense of taste and smell. So it comes up to like day 8 of quarantine, and Kyle's like, I can't take it. Like, I can't smell anything. I can't taste anything. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in this house. I'm going
crazy. I'm looking at you all day. You're a crazy wife. I don't know what to do. I love you, but I need to get the hell out of here.
With your mask on, he went outside and he sat on the back patio. Now, the sun was bright out that day. It was, that's one thing about COVID. When COVID was out here, the weather was nice. Probably because all those carbon emissions and cars weren't driving around and everything. Girl, we had some beautiful COVID weather. Okay, we had some beautiful weather out here. One time in the summer, it was 57 degrees outside in the summer.
In Louisiana.
When everything was on lockdown. Maybe I'm the only person that picked up on them. But anyway, he was sitting outside and he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do a little bit of yard work. So he cut a little bit of grass, he did a little bit of gardening. He comes back inside and he's like,
you know what, I feel a little bit better.
I guess a little bit of that, I don't know, because I know vitamin D takes a while to kick in, but maybe that sunshine just kind of got him right. So I went outside, I sat outside for a while, then I came back in and I felt a little bit better. Now, does that cure anything? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like a mental happy feeling, like you just feel better. It was good to just kind of step out of the house, but still be on our property, still be masked up. We weren't being irresponsible whatsoever. We understood that we literally had something that was lethal enough to hurt somebody else, to kill somebody else. And that's one of the big things that I'm getting at. It was so incredibly strange that even though for me, it was amazing to know that I had something that could take somebody out if I just breathed near them, if I just touched something and then they touched it right after me and I didn't sanitize in between. The survivor's guilt really started to weigh heavy with me. I knew I was lucky, dude. I knew that I was lucky. I knew he and I were lucky with what we were feeling. I mean, I even shot a video with having coronavirus. I'll put that up here if I can remember. But in all seriousness though, I said it on Instagram. I put a podcast out about it if you care to listen. My husband and I have contracted the coronavirus. It's been less than fun around here, but we have a schedule and I told you guys I'm gonna be uploading 3 times a week and I'm gonna stick to that. Like it was such a strange time, but at the same time with having the virus, even though I didn't have the detrimental side effects, I'm thankful that I didn't, A, and B, it really taught me that I have to be cognizant of my neighbor. I have to make sure that I am going to put my best self out there, my smartest self out there, so that way somebody doesn't have the horrible effects from this virus. If people stop being selfish and think that everything is against their rights and politicizing everything and it's this person's fault, it's this person's fault. No, let me tell you this straight up. I'm not being political, but the only thing I will say is that it should have never got like this. It should have never gotten like this. I have my own personal opinion about how it got like this. I won't talk about that on this channel, at least not yet. It was a lesson. It was a lesson, and I'm very, very grateful that we had that lesson and we had it in a mild manner, because I don't know what I would do if it would have been the opposite. I lost 2 aunts and they were my grandma's sisters, and I lost my grandma last year. I lost my grandma and my grandpa 2.5 months apart last year. Okay, and then I lost my aunt, and then I lost another aunt, and then I lost a cousin, and 2 of those deaths were due to the coronavirus, and those deaths were also 2 months apart. It's just been a wild ride. I'm very grateful to, you know, have the family that I have and have the connections that I have, but at the same time, you know, I think about all that I've lost, and it's just so incredibly infuriating to see people think that this is a hoax, or B, that this is not what it is. I'm telling you it's what it is. I've experienced it. It's been in my body. I have the antibodies for it. I'm telling you it is what it is. Okay? As an ex-healthcare manager, I'm telling you to take this thing seriously. And think about the lives that are lost. Think about the families. Holiday season right now. Think about that for a minute. Think about how many of these people are hanging up angels on their trees in memories of their loved ones. They used to just be a signifying gesture for spirituality, and now you're hanging up because you have an intention. Look, our experience was one of a kind in the fact that I have survivor's guilt from it, but I can tell you right now, it's not like it couldn't happen again. We take it for granted now because we experienced it. And what I was saying with the first story earlier was the fact that I don't know if that was COVID in that way, because my husband was also sick around that time too. He didn't have it as bad as me, but he was sick too. I don't know if that was virus related or not, which is why this time we had it easier. I'm not exactly sure. That's why I said that story as a preface. I'm sorry, I had to mention that. I don't know if that's true or not. That could have just been me having a flu or something like that, but it's rare for me to get sick. But you know, anything can happen, obviously. 2020. If you haven't heard it publicly or from your own self-conscious, let me tell you, this year was terrible. There are only a few people that I can actually name that had somewhat of an okay year. And even then, that's questionable for those folks because it's a low bar. It's a low bar. That was our experience with the coronavirus. That was our experience with the virus. I ask that everyone still, you know, follow science, follow what is correct, do what is right, don't argue, don't politicize everything. A virus doesn't care about your political affiliation. It does not care if you're black, white, Indonesian. It don't care, girl. The virus doesn't care. If it can infiltrate you, it will. If it can make havoc, it will. Anyone, okay, and this is a rant, but if anybody would ever dispute this day to go into the ICUs where these people are on respirators, and you talk to the doctors and nurses that are saving these people, and you look them in the face and say, oh, your job doesn't really matter that much. I'm gonna frivolously do what I want. Oh, this isn't serious. I dare you to look at that ICU practitioner and tell them that. People need to do better. I don't even want to get into that. I don't even want to get into that. I think a lot of people already know politically where I stand. And if you don't, I stand for ethics, okay? And I think that speaks a lot to this year. I don't even have to dive into more of that. I stand for ethics. And that's how I vote, with ethics in mind. Not with propaganda or me thinking that I'm above science. Because remember, science will tell science when science is wrong.
Period.
Now, girl, have you ever seen food so good you just wanted to just start crying because you were so hungry? Girl, I am about to
Dig into this.
I'll see y'all next time. Happy holidays. I'm about to get fatter.